On today's episode, Ian Panter. Ian was in a car crash leaving Tough Mudder, Philadelphia last year, and he almost died.
This is the world's toughest podcast. Welcome to the world's toughest podcast, where we talk about any obstacle course race you'd like, as long as that's world's toughest mudder. Each week we talk to members of the WTM community and share stories of success and failure in the single greatest event in OCR. My name is Will Hicks, and this is the world's toughest podcast.
Welcome back to World's Toughest Podcast. My name is Will Hicks. Thank you for listening. On today's episode, we're going to talk with Ian Panter. You may remember Ian from when we talked about him last year.
It's a grueling hours-long race called the Tough Mudder. Last weekend it was near Philadelphia, and Ian Panter knew he had to be there. But after the race, the 36-year-old got into a terrible accident riding in the passenger seat. The man from Oak Park is now in a hospital, family by his side. The man in great physical condition has been unresponsive since Saturday, suffering from a traumatic brain injury.
It's okay. Ian is doing much better. Before we start, you can reach me at willhicks@gmail.com. You can find me on Twitter at @TheWillHicks or on Instagram at WillHicks. You can subscribe to our World's Toughest newsletter by texting the word TOUGH to the number 22828. That's TOUGH to the number 22828. Or you can subscribe via email. Check the show notes for directions on how to do that. Have you guys been watching the Winter Olympics? I love the Winter Olympics because they remind me of the real Olympics. And I know this isn't a hot take or anything, but what is the deal with curling? Every time I turn on my TV, it's either curling, snowboarding, or that guy from Tonga with no shirt, looking all oiled up and muscular.
To the delight of many, Tongan flag bearer Pita Tafatua walked shirtless once again, despite the frigid temperatures at the Pyeongchang Olympics opening ceremony. The Olympic athlete gained worldwide attention due to his dramatic walk and chiseled physique during the 2016 Rio Olympics opening ceremony.
The country's flag bearer already won gold on the internet with his shirtless and oiled up performance. Take a look at that.
The Taekwondo competitor braved the below freezing temperatures and walked out all glistened up in oil, wearing sandals and the traditional Tongan costume.
That poor guy. He's clearly single. Good luck getting any ladies with all that Olympic fame and rippling muscles and full head of hair. You can hear more about him on my other show, World's Tongest Podcast. Because of this podcast, I feel like I have more countries I can root for now. Obviously, I'm pulling for the United States, but if they're not in it, I feel like I've got some surrogate countries I can root for now. I root for Canada, I root for the UK, and I root for Australia and Ireland. I spent some time with Team Ireland at World's Toughest last year. I like those guys, too. Those are all the countries I get the most engagement and interaction from listeners here on the podcast. We get lots of downloads from other countries, too. Even non-English speaking countries like Germany, Italy, Japan, Sweden, tons of countries. But those are the ones that, leave reviews on Apple Podcasts or they email me. We have conversations. If you're from a non-English speaking country, shoot me an email at willhicks@gmail.com. You know what? I left out Germany. Anke Frederick's from Germany. I've talked with people from Germany. I'll pull for you guys, too. I say non-English speaking. Those Olympians from Norway and Sweden and Denmark, they all speak English better than me. Better than I. Slovenia. I root for Slovenia when I see them. The 2017 Women's World's Toughest Mudder champion, Rhea Kobel, is from Slovenia and is a friend of the show.
5 stars.
Well done, Rhea. Let's talk about some Tough Mudder news. Tough Mudder 5K. Last week, Tough Mudder announced their 2018 plans for Tough Mudder 5K. You probably know a 5K is 3.1 miles long and is by far the most popular race distance in the U.S. In 2016, about 17 million people finished a race of any distance, and about 8 million of those were 5Ks. The second most popular distance is a half marathon, 13.1 miles, and number 3 is the 10K with about 1.2 million finishers. Last year, Tough Mudder did one 5K event in Nashville, Tennessee. This year, they're holding 34 5Ks worldwide, with 26 in the U.S., 4 in the U.K., 3 in Germany, and 1 in Canada. The non-U.S. 5K info has been out for a bit, but last week, Team HQ announced the rollout for North America. 27 cities, including one in Toronto. It would be easier to list the cities that won't have a 5K, but that's no fun. In 2018, you can run the Tough Mudder 5K at the following cities: Arizona, Sacramento, Miami, Central Texas, Philly, Kentucky, Michigan, Boston, Twin Cities, Long Island, Western New York, Missouri, Hudson Valley, Chicago, Wisconsin, Pittsburgh, Toronto in Canada, Nashville, Seattle, Dallas-Fort Worth, Tri-State, NorCal, Central Florida, Atlanta, Las Vegas, Houston, and SoCal. Those cities again are... I'm just kidding. You can rewind. In the UK, you can run Tough Mudder 5K at Stratford, Bristol, Manchester, and Edinburgh. And in Germany, you can run it at Berlin, Hamburg, and Munich. As I'm recording this, there are no 5Ks currently announced for Australia, Ireland, China, or any other countries. For exact dates and locations, go to toughmudder.com or our Facebook page at facebook.com/world's toughest pod. A couple interesting things to note about the Tough Mudder 5K. The last obstacle, the finisher obstacle, will be Happy Ending. Happy Ending is a new obstacle for 2018. It looks like a pyramid scheme 2.0 with a slide into water down the back. We've talked about this briefly, but I don't think it's gotten the attention it deserves. Electroshock therapy will not be the finisher obstacle at Tough Mudder anymore. It will still be on the course as a regular obstacle. The finisher obstacle for Tough Mudder Full, Tough Mudder Half, and Tough Mudder 5K will be Happy Ending. I understand why they're doing it. Team HQ wants everyone out there from all 3 distances finishing the course together, and they couldn't do that with electroshock therapy as the Tough Mudder Full finisher obstacle. This is a huge change. Those EST finisher photos are an iconic part of Tough Mudder. It'll be interesting to see the reaction from the World's Toughest community and the Legionnaires once the season starts and people realize how big a change this is. Something else that will be interesting to watch over the next few years. I mentioned a minute ago that of all the people who ran a race in 2016, half of them were 5K runners. If those stats translate directly over to Tough Mudder, the 5K could become the most popular Tough Mudder event, with the 10 to 12 mile Tough Mudder Full second most popular, and the Tough Mudder Half third most popular. World's Toughest Mudder is by far the lowest attended Tough Mudder event, with about 1,500 runners each year at the one race. But what it lacks in attendance numbers, it makes up for in viewer numbers. It's the best TV show made about obstacle course racing. I know Ninja Warrior exists. Don't at me. We talked last week in our Adrian Albert episode about the vault obstacles for the US and the UK. Tough Mudder held a vote with a bunch of classic obstacles from their obstacle vault. You could vote on your favorite, and 2 or 3 of the winners will show up on each Tough Mudder course in 2018. The U.S. will have 9 vault obstacles. We talked about that last week. I want to talk about the UK and Australia for a second here. The UK only had 2 vault obstacles listed on their website. They had Cage Crawl and King of the Mountain. Since then, I talked with Ian Kay, one of our listeners in the UK, who keeps me posted on Tough Mudder UK developments. He sent me an obscure link on the Tough Mudder UK site with 10 vault obstacles listed. This looks much more like a finished list than what we had last week. So, according to toughmudder.co.uk/obstacles #unnamed_filter =vault, the 10 UK vault obstacles for 2018 will be boa constrictor, cage crawl, crybaby, dingleberries, human gecko, just the tip, king of the mountain, lumberjacked, pitfall, and twinkle toes. For more info on these obstacles, check out our episode with Jim Campbell from a few weeks ago. Episode 2 of this season, number 59 total. In Australia, it's a little different. Voting is still open for you, Aussies. Mate. You have until 11:59 March 1st to vote. But Australia did something no one else did. Last week, they posted an update of what obstacles are leading the vote. You can see the votes over on our Facebook page. In first place is Leap of Faith, then King of the Mountain, Greased Lightning, and Twinkle Toes in fourth. Way at the bottom of the list are Crybaby, Lumberjacked, and Skidmarked. Australia, get your votes in now. You have until March 1st. I mentioned Adrienne Alvord. Last week we talked with her about her story. She was real honest and vulnerable about her past and the struggles she's gone through in life. After that episode aired, I got an email from Andrew Dahlquist. I'm going to read a part of it. Man, Will, I just wanted to chime in on the episode with Adrienne Alvord. How to even begin. It wasn't just powerful, it was impowerful. It takes a lot of courage to participate in World's Toughest Mudder, but without a doubt, the world's toughest obstacle is having the courage to tell your story to the entire world, sparing no detail. Adrienne is nothing short of a hero. Humanity's greatest struggle has been our battle with identitarian culture, the idea that it's in our best interest to only associate with those who most resemble ourselves. It rules our politics, it rules our social structures, and we're expected to accept it for what it is. What I love most about OCR, above anything else, is that it strips us of this need to identify as individuals and empowers us to identify as one. Because when faced with the elements of nature and our most natural habitat, we bond together. We survive together. The world needs more outspoken heroes like Adrienne, heroes who aren't afraid to share their stories, because it's these stories that, like the great spirit of OCR, cut straight to the soul and bring us closer together. Because togetherness is the truth, and the truth sets us free. Cheers, Andrew Dahlquist. Thank you for the email, Andrew. You're right. The truth sets us free. Jesus said that 2,000 years ago. You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. I forwarded that email to Adrienne. It meant a lot to her. Thank you again for sending that, Andrew. One more thing before we read some iTunes reviews and talk with Ian. You might remember Eric DeMessage. We talked with him last year in our Chicago Toughest preview. That's season 1, episode 34. He's run World's Toughest twice. He got 50 miles and 60 miles those 2 times. He's putting on a race, a local OCR race in northern Wisconsin. It's 13 miles long with 30 obstacles. Untimed, so no pressure. And it's only $30 US. If you're in the Wisconsin, Minnesota area, you should check it out. You can find more information about it on our Facebook page, facebook.com/World's Toughest Pod. Here's the thing. The race is called the W. Hicks Obstacle Course Run, which is an honor and kind of embarrassing, too. But if you want a race t-shirt with my name on it, you can email sales@northwesterncoffeemills.com or find a link on our Facebook page to sign up for the race. Thank you, Eric. You are too kind. Before we talk with Ian Panter, let's read some iTunes reviews. Real quick, before the reviews, I was listening to Mike Stefano's Obstacle Running Adventures podcast tonight. He mentioned us in his open.
Real quick, I know you're sick, but Will Hicks is making a soundboard. Do we want to do our best 5 stars? Ready?
You go first.
All right. 5 stars. Caitlin?
I don't even want to try because you're going to make fun of me.
Caitlin, you're fine. Mike would never make fun of you.
5 stars.
Well done, Michael.
5 stars.
That was good. If you listen to his obstacle running adventures and have already left us a review, and you want to keep flexing those writing muscles, you should leave them a review as well. Also, Overcome and Run. Obstacle Running Adventures and Overcome and Run are 2 OCR podcasts that are underrated. Heather Bodie at Overcome and Run has deposed her husband to take the main chair over there. You need to keep an eye on Caitlin, Mike. Enough of that. Back to our show. The first review is from the UK. Hello, United Kingdom. This is from Stu the First. Stu the First writes, truly awesome. 5 stars. I've been doing a couple of local OCRs in Scotland, but this year was time to step up. This podcast helped give me the boost to do more than the one a year like I had done before. The interviews with superstars of the sport, along with info and tips on training and nutrition, make it a great place to inspire and help improve my game. Keep up the great work, Will. A deserved 5-star. P.S. Spartan Beast this year, maybe Toughest Mudder next year. Thanks for that, Stu the First. Although you wrote Spartan Beast this year, maybe Toughest Mudder next year, it wasn't really my goal to get more people off their couch and running the Spartan Beast. But as long as that's a milestone on your way to Toughest Mudder, maybe World's Toughest Mudder, it'll be all right. We can laugh about it at the post-World's Toughest Mudder brunch a few years from now. Stu the First mentioned he's from Scotland, but his review came from the UK. You UK listeners can take a break for a second. We're going to have an Americans-only meeting. Do you guys know the difference between England, Great Britain, and the United Kingdom? Jason Sudeikis from SNL did a bit where he was a U.S. football coach who was hired to coach a soccer team, a football team in the UK. He's trying to learn his players' names and where they're from.
Who's orange shoes there?
Gareth Bale.
That's Gareth Bale. Where he's from? He's from England?
Wales.
Wales. Wait, that's another country?
Yes and no.
How many countries are in this country?
4.
How many countries are in this country? There are 4. The United Kingdom is made up of 4 countries: England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. The Republic of Ireland is different than Northern Ireland, but that is a whole thing we are not getting into right now. Great Britain is an island made up of 3 countries: England, Scotland, and Wales. Great Britain plus Northern Ireland equals the United Kingdom. Anyway, thank you, Stu the First, for that review. Good luck on your Spartan Beast. Next review is from the UK again, from Cheeky. Cheeky writes, world's toughest and bestest podcast. 5 stars. From top information about WTM to interesting and engaging interviews, this podcast has it all. I check daily for new podcasts as it gets me through my long journeys to work. Keep up the good work. Hope to see you at some events soon, Will. You're the bestest. Thank you, Cheeky. I'm hoping to make it over there for Toughest Mudder Midlands or Toughest Mudder Scotland. There's nothing set in stone yet, though. I will keep you posted. Thanks again, Cheeky. The last review comes from the UK. UK coming strong this week. 3 reviews from them in 1 week. The UK heard all that Australia stuff during kickoff week and thought, enough of this, governor. Time to step up. Pip, pip. From the UK, Joanna Charlotte writes, 5 stars. Just found this podcast, and you are getting me super psyched for this season. No World's Toughest for me this year, but perhaps in a couple of years. Great shows. I'm hooked. And then a little heart. Thank you, Joanna. I'm glad you're psyched for this season. I am, too. I hurt my knee at the end of last season and have been seeing a physical therapist. And I went actual running for the first time this past week. That's the first time I've been running in 2 months, 3 months. It felt good. I actually missed it a bit. Joanna, if you can't do World's Toughest this year, you should try and at least do a Toughest Mudder. There's 2 of them in your neck of the woods this year. I say neck of the woods. They say in America 100 years is long and 100 miles is nothing. But in Europe, 100 miles is long and 100 years is nothing. But if you can, you should check out Toughest Mudder. They are a blast. Thanks again to Joanna Charlotte, Cheeky, and Stu the First. If you'd like to be a part of the show like them, you can leave a review on Apple Podcasts too. Open the Purple Podcast app on your iPhone and search for Tough Mudder. We're the first podcast that pops up. Click our logo and then scroll down to click on Write a Review, and I will read it on a future episode. It's time to talk with Ian Panter. Let's go to the phones. Ian Panter, thanks for being on the show.
Glad to be here. Very glad.
Ian, tell me about your first World's Toughest Mudder.
It was quite the experience. I mean, didn't really know what to expect. Just had a lot of friends that have ran it and gave a lot of advice. But, there was so much advice out there. It was kind of hard to narrow it down what I needed. I probably bought for what I needed, but it's better to be prepared than underprepared, obviously.
Sure.
It was going really well. I was making some really good pace times early on. And unfortunately, I ended up rolling my ankle, what felt like a roll, on a penalty loop. And then I found out like a week or so later, it was actually fractured. So I had taken some time off in the pit, like midnight to, I forget exactly what time. And then, the pain just didn't go away. So I ended up finishing with 30 miles. So, I was happy with that, but, without the injury, hopefully they would have gotten the 40 or 50, so.
30 miles your first year is nothing to be ashamed of, especially with a broken foot.
It happens. I told a lot of newbies this year, hey, look, you can train for 75 miles, but if you hurt your arm or your ankle or whatever, it happens. So just be prepared for that. Go out and do your best. But unfortunately, you can't be upset if something keeps you from reaching that first goal, So
I don't know if you followed it, but two of the girls, Adrienne Alvord and Morgan Mackay, that were expected to be top contenders. The same thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't their ankle, but they both had head injuries this year.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I definitely because I actually follow Morgan on Instagram and I know her by Unbroken, so that's what I follow her on Instagram as well. So yeah, things happen. That's just what it is. That's part of our sport. We train and we get ready as much as we can. And unfortunately, sometimes things happen. So we adjust and we keep going the best that we can. So,
how much did you have to run or walk on that broken foot?
I think I only did 5 miles. It was just the ankle. So I finished that lap. So maybe it was actually close to about 8 miles. So I finished that one. I did one more, and then I did the rest for actually close to about 13 or so. So, but the adrenaline was good enough to where I didn't feel that it was fractured. I thought, I rolled it pretty bad, but I'm going to tough it out because it only happens once a year. And then it wasn't until about a week later or so where the pain really didn't go away. So I went to a podiatrist who's happened to be a friend of mine, and he did the x-ray and he said, I thought you were joking. I was like, what is it? And he showed me the hairline fractures in between the ankle bone.
That's a real thing. You get an injury, and it might be a serious injury, but in the heat of the moment, you don't know that, and you can keep going.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, there's a lot of people that have gone out there with what they thought is just sore shoulder or sore arm or sore leg or hip, and then they found out a week later that it was a lot more than they anticipated. So it happens, for sure.
You mentioned you overpacked. What are some things you brought that you ended up not needing at all, or that you wish you had left home maybe?
Well, in 2016, it was definitely one of the warmest, night runs at World. So I had a shorty to go along with my full, wetsuit wise. And I clearly never needed that because it was like 40 degrees even at night. It was nice. So that would be the biggest thing, would be my shorty that I planned on throwing on top of my full. And then because of the injury, I didn't do a lot of night ops, so I didn't need the windbreak or anything like that. So there's a couple little things that I probably didn't need, but it was nice to have in case it got so cold that I had to throw it on. So
that was in 2016. In 2017, You ran Toughest Mudder Atlanta.
Tell me about the Toughest Mudder Atlanta.
That was, it was a great experience. I mean, I done Worlds, so I knew what to prepare for night-wise, just making sure you weren't tired and you weren't, it was basically like running a regular Tough Mudder at night and keep going. So, there's not a whole lot you can prepare for specifically for that event, but, as long as you're, doing the Tough Mudders and working out, the same thing is like you don't eat a bunch of stuff that would slow you down, and it was nice enough. The area I shared with a couple people, we had like Tailwind bottles and some other good energy stuff to have, so you didn't feel drained and tired, as if you were doing it for the first time, never doing Worlds before.
World's Toughest 2018 is going to be on that same venue. What do you think about that as a venue for World's Toughest?
It was a great experience. I mean, unfortunately, I can't see a place they're going to put the cliff, so that's probably not going to, again, I don't know, but I'm sure they'll come up with something that is comparable to the cliff. Hopefully that's the case at least. I think every venue has its own challenges, whether it's super hilly or super flat, whatever it may be, they kind of create a challenge for the runners. And, what I heard last year was it was a lot more physical than people expected it to be. But that's what TMHQ does. They come up with ideas and say, all right, a lot of people got really good miles in 16. Let's make it really hard in 17. And from what I've been hearing, that's exactly what they did. They threw obstacles that people weren't ready for or had no experience with, and it challenged a lot of people. So whether they, I've heard some things about people complaining it was so hard and this and that. It's like, that's what we do. This isn't a merry-go-round. You got to get on your horse and keep going and just do whatever it is have to do.
So later last year, after Atlanta, you were at Philadelphia, and you ran Tough Mudder Philadelphia Saturday morning, the regular Tough Mudder, and you were leaving the venue. Tell me what happened when you left.
The funny part is I'm missing about 5 weeks, so I can't even tell you. All I remember is, I started the course with several people, and we were having a good time. They were kind of mapping out the course for Toughest, and, I ran into my friends Sarah Templin and Monica Frazier, and we finished with them strong. And then I was staying in Airbnb with Adam Burns and Melissa Hole and Dan King and Mike Weaver and Ashley. So our plan was to go back to the Airbnb, shower, and just relax and probably take a nap if possible, even though you're so jacked up from a Tough Mudder, it's tough to just take a nap. So at least relax, knowing that we had a night run ahead of us. And, unfortunately, again, I don't know what happened, when it happened, what happened. So all I know is about 5 weeks later, I was told about an accident, that occurred. So, again, it was just what it was,
Can you talk about what they told you about the accident?
Yeah, I mean, really, I'm getting a lot of bits and pieces from people, but all I really know is that it occurred. So I don't know, what exactly happened. Sure. Obviously a car hit us, and it was, I believe it was T-bone on my side, but that's as far as I know. So I don't know what caused it, what happened, but it did. So, and I have people working on figuring out. The unfortunate part is, I got the police report, and the other person supposedly was speeding. However, he's not been charged with any sort of crime at this point. And it's been almost a year. So it is, it is what it is. I mean, for me, I'm grateful to be alive and everything that has to do with that. So it's like every day people ask me, do you know about this? Do you know about this? And it's like, I'm just living every day for what it is, because let's face it, if he did hit us going 50 some miles over the speed limit, I should be dead, So that's the good part that I go off of. I mean, I was always the glass kind of half full kind of guy before this incident. So I'm lucky that I'm carrying that with me. They said, when I was at the hospital, I could have personality changes, which I'm sure a lot of my friends and family would like, but it's still basically the same me. So, I was with my cousin maybe like 3 or 4 months later, and he's like, how can you have such a smile about everything that's going on? And the answer was, I'm alive. What's not, when I was at the hospital back in Detroit, it was a rehab center, and I saw, stroke victims and a lot of people that had trouble eating and speaking. And, I'm very lucky considering what happened. I mean, nothing was broken on me except my brain, but who needs that, So that's kind of where I stand at this point, just happy to be alive, and let everything else handle itself and not worry about it, because it's not going to, if I was angry, it wouldn't change what happened, and it won't change the future. So I'm just kind of trying to be as positive as I can about it,
You weren't driving, you were the passenger.
I was the passenger, correct.
And you left the venue, and then you woke up 5 months later. The next thing you remember is 5 weeks later.
Yeah.
What's the first thing you remember after those 5 weeks?
Actually, just waking up to go do PT at the rehab center, because it's weird. So RIM is a Rehabilitation Institute of Michigan, and so but they have, it's connected to like hospitals and other things. So I was in a room there, and I just I don't remember, like, I didn't wake up and like where I've been, what happened. I just kind of woke up and they're like, all right, PT's at 10, or
Sure.
Ready for it. So
that's kind of when your brain started making new memories.
Yeah, exactly. So the nice part is, the crazy part is I remember everything before the accident, and it didn't affect my long-term memory. The best story that I love saying about that is when I got released, my uncle and I went to Panera Bread, and they said, do you have a Panera card, to my uncle? And he said, no. And I said, yeah, and my phone number is blah, blah, blah. And he looked at me and was like, well, I'm not worried about your memory, So it was a nice part. Again, I'm not dealing with a lot of the like double vision or personality issues or anything else that could be affected. I'm still doing some PT on my shoulder and leg and things like that. But again, in the long run, I'm very lucky. And that's.
How are you doing now? Like physically, you said you don't have double vision. Like, right. How do you feel? Like, and maybe even your brain. Like, have your doctor said anything? Like, how are you right now?
No, I feel pretty good considering. There's little things like my range of motion on my shoulder is a little weak, so I'm working on that in PT. And then pretty much the whole month that I was at the rehab center, we were working on my leg and the gait, I guess you call it, the little distance in between your walking and things like that. And, my balance is still slightly off. So there's little things that I'm still working on. It's going to take a long time. There's a lot of roads I have to go down, and I'm still working on it. But, with PT, it's been a big help, and the support has been huge. So, just keep working, keep going to the gym, keep working out as much as I can. And, there's certain things I can't do because, I can't lift, certain ways. But through PT, they've taught me ways to do things that I can still do. So helped me get back to the way I was. You
mentioned support. What's the reaction been like from the world's toughest community?
I honestly do not have words. They've been so amazing, from people I've never met before to people I've been friends with for a couple of years. It's been truly amazing. Finally, I'll tell you, my family never understood why I traveled for hours on a weekend to go do a Tough Mudder. They thought I loved the race so much. And it wasn't the race so much, it was the people. That's why I went to these events. Just people that have been so amazingly supportive. Honestly, I can't even put it into words. They've been so awesome. I wish I could put it into words, but I honestly can't. They've just been amazing. The community, I shout it to the world. If I talk to somebody who's athletic and wants to try it, I tell them about it. You know, if I have somebody that's never done one, they have no interest in doing a full or a half, I still tell them about it because I know what it is. It's not just doing a Tough Mudder. It's not going 10 to 12 miles and all these obstacles. It's about the people that are there. You know, I try to explain, it doesn't matter how long it takes you. It could take you all day, but people will help you get over those obstacles. And that they really have. I mean, every time I've been challenged with something, the community has been there to pick me up, to get me over those obstacles. You know, that's the amazing part about it.
I know they did a GoFundMe with some financial support, but they also did stuff like I saw a giant banner at World's Toughest this year that everyone signed. Did you end up getting that?
I do. I have it. I'm going to put it up in my office. I'm waiting for my brother-in-law to help me with that. So the funny story about those, there was actually 3 of them. And unfortunately, according to some people, that FedEx actually lost 2 of them. So that really sucks. The one that I have it's awesome. It's the starting line photo from Philly, actually, all signed. And that was the one that was at Mickey Finn's in Las Vegas. And, you know, which was, it was great to see. You know, the support, again, has been amazing, you know. And so, yeah, I love that. I don't know what you want to call it, but I love seeing it, and just really helps me get to my day, you know.
They even made some Running for Ian t-shirts. Did you see those?
Yeah, again, it just, I mean, sometimes I feel like I never did enough for the community to warrant this kind of love and support, honestly. But I think somebody told me when I was out in Vegas at the Fiesta, we were having the dinner, you know, it just shows how much people love you and what a great guy that you are for them. And even though I didn't feel that way, that I could have done more, they have definitely shown me that love back. And so for the rest of my life, you know, this community has my heart, you know, honestly, for whether you're an experienced veteran or a brand newbie just doing your first time in 2018, I will be there to support them, you know, the best that I can, you know, because they've done the shirts, and so it's pretty awesome.
Have the doctors told you any long-term forecasts or when you could expect to be back to 100%?
No, I mean, you know, with the brain, it's very funny because you can't pinpoint certain things. So, like, you take, for instance, my shoulder or the balance. There's no time frame you can really give to it. It's not like a broken arm where you can say, 6 to 8 weeks, let it heal. You know, these are things that, you know, are going to take some time. So, give you a good example. I still have some numbness on my, like, fingertips and toes and lips. And my one doctor, who's a neurologist, said, you know, it can either come back one day or it may never. And so if that's the worst thing that, again, I have to deal with for the rest of my life, I'm alive. So what do I care? If I got to deal with it, I'll deal with it. You know, I'll make it happen. So, you know, that's the nice part. So, you know, I'll keep doing PT for as long as I can, but there's no time frame on that. So I'm either going to, you know, it's hard to say I'll ever be 100% of the way I was, but maybe in 5 years I will. I don't know, you know. So.
You mentioned, like, you're alive a couple times now. How close did you come to dying, or did the doctors tell you?
Well, I wasn't awake at the hospital in Pennsylvania. It's called Lancaster General Hospital. So I don't know, but from my understanding, what I've heard, when my mom was there, it went from, you know, I think the first day or two that they were there said, you know, we have to wait and see because we don't know if he's even going to make it out of this, you know. And then it went to being a group home for the rest of my life to, okay, he's ready to go home, basically. And I was still not awake, but they could ship me back to Michigan at least to get therapy here. So, you know, it's funny because it's progressed nicely to where they kept saying, well, we don't know, to, yeah, but he's going to need assistance for the rest of his life, to, this, and now, I'm living on my own back in my house because I just bought a house in April before the accident, to living on my own and back to work. So, again, I'm just progressing nicely, which is, all I can ask for at this point.
What are your plans for 2018? Are you going to be at some Tough Mudders, Toughest Mudder, World's Toughest?
I am. So my goal, now that they're actually doing Toughest in Michigan, I would like to make my Tough Mudder comeback on June 2nd. Not Toughest, because I don't think I'm ready for that. But that Saturday, which is June 2nd, I would like to be able to do that course. Now, I've only ran one time, or jogged, I would call it, because it wasn't really running, I was at the Perry, like Joe Perry and MJ and all the Tough Mudder people. We went out to Canada for a weekend and went for a little run. I went about a mile before the leg started to hurt a little bit, and I just walked back. So I'm probably going to be doing mostly walking on Saturday, but I've already talked to some people and let them know that was my plan. And they said, hey, we will walk the entire thing with you. So, that just goes to show you, again, how much support is out there, and how much love there is. So that's my goal, at least for 2018, to start with that event, see how it goes. I would like to pit for some people for Toughest that night, and then we'll see how I feel after doing Saturday, and if I can do Sunday, great. If not, I would like to start volunteering at some events, because that's something that I never did in 16 and 17. I was so gung-ho about doing events, but now I see there's definitely ways to be a part of the group, whether you're running or you're volunteering, because they need volunteers who have done these and are willing to put in the time and show their exuberance for the event and the sport. So that's what my plan is for 2018. I don't, with the shoulder and everything, I don't think any Toughest or Worlds will be in the picture for this year. I don't know, but I just don't see it happening overall. But I'll make sure to be there and at least pit for friends, and things like that. But that's where I have planned for this year.
What do you think you've learned out of this whole situation? What's some lessons that you've taken home from it?
Well, one is that, share your love. I mean, tell people how much you care about them, because you never know, unfortunately, what could happen. So make sure you're telling people and sharing that love with people, so they know if something were to happen that you're there. And honestly, anything can happen. Doesn't matter if you're a really good person, a really shitty person. I mean, it could happen to anybody. So that's kind of what I took away from all this. And the other thing was, there's no benefit to just giving up. You can't quit. And so, when I was at therapy, there were days where I'm like, I can't do it because it's really sore if I do it. But they taught me other ways to do it to where it didn't hurt as much. And so I could still do it and be active and, on the road to recovery. And so that's the biggest thing I learned, is that, for me, if I was sitting on my butt, not working towards getting back, I mean, that's the biggest thing that I've learned, is that you're going to face obstacles, but if you get over those, people will help you get over those if you need, but nothing will stand in your way, as long as you don't let it. And so I think that's, again, where part of my personality and glass half full is that, hey, look, I'll get over that if I have to. And if you can help me, great. But it may take me a lot longer than it did before, but I'm going to make sure I'm going to keep going. And that's the thing, you just got to keep going.
Mm-hmm. Ian, if somebody wants to reach out to you, how can they find you on social media?
On Instagram, I have IJ Panter, very original, my last name. And then, on Facebook under Ian Panter. I didn't add a lot of new people because I liked the idea. I wasn't doing anything for sympathy. I didn't want to just add people in the community because we have 40 friends in common. If I hadn't met them, I would like to some interaction between us in person before I add you on Facebook. But I'm more than happy to add on, Instagram, or I have also Snap. It's the same as Instagram, IG Panter. And I was very active on Instagram before the accident. I haven't really posted much on there since because a lot of it was workout stuff. And I was actually I was lucky enough to be chosen to be a Second Skin ambassador before the accident because I had so much plans for 2017, all these events and things like that. Unfortunately, they've been very cool with the whole situation. And so, if somebody wants to reach out to me, I'm always happy to talk to people. I mean, that's kind of who I am. I'll talk to anybody. And that's what I love about this community. It's made up of business professionals, high school dropouts. I mean, you name it, we cover it all. And that's the amazing part. Is you talk to people of all different walks of life, and nobody thinks they're better than anybody else. Everyone's like, oh, yeah, I've done that. Absolutely. Or they ask you, tell me about that. What's that like? So that's the amazing part that I like about it.
Tell me about Second Skin. What is Second Skin? How can people use your referral code? What should they know?
Second Skin it's kind of like the best way. It's like it's a Under Armour kind of gear. I haven't been active in probably a few months with them, so I don't know about any referrals that they have going on right now. But the gear that they sent me to wear, I like a lot. I mean, it's breathable and it gets the job done. They've gone after some big names in the sport, in the OCR world, and in the lifting world, and so there's definitely ways to, you've got to try out what you like, and that's the nice part, So, I was wearing one of their windbreakers out in Vegas. It was lightweight, but their stuff overall, I was very impressed with. I would have liked to do some more events with their clothes on, but unfortunately, some things you can't control.
Ian, any last thoughts on the World's Toughest Mudder or your 2017 in general?
The whole thing is really about the Tough Mudder community, not specific races, but the community. And, they've been so amazing, whether it's been as friends, has been racers, and I use that term loosely. I'm talking about like toughest and worlds. But even if you just go to do an event on a regular course, people have been so amazing to make sure you're getting over obstacles. And that's the biggest thing. If you're walking, they're not going to be like, oh, I can't believe this person's walking the course. I would never pass anybody and say, you're not doing it the way you're supposed to. There is no supposed to with Tough Mudder. That's the amazing part. It's all about overcoming those fears, overcoming those obstacles, and helping people continuously. And that's the one thing I've learned. I mean, this community really rallied around me after the accident, which was amazing, and I appreciate it greatly. I only hope that I can return the favor to this community one day, even half of the way they showed me the love back. So that's really what I have to say about Tough Mudder. I love this company. I love this group.
Ian Panter, thanks much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Special thanks to Ian Panter for appearing in this episode. Well done, Ian. What did you think of this episode? Shoot me an email at willhicks@gmail.com or leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. I will read that review on a future episode. We are getting close to the start of the season. Will I see you at Toughest Mudder LA? Come up and say hey. You can say it as you pass me on the course. I will be slow. I will talk to you soon. Go spend time with someone you love.